Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another What I'm Reading Right Now video here on the channel. This is the series where I talk about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, and what I shall be reading next. I think we've got about 3 weeks worth of stuff to talk about, possibly more, so we should probably get going. I have finished 6 things since last time we spoke and I'm excited to talk to you about all of them. First up, I finished Ancillary Justice, Ancillary Mercy, and Ancillary Sword. No, they're not in that order. Ancillary Justice, Ancillary Sword, and Ancillary Mercy, all by Leckie. This is the Imperial Raj series. It's hard to say. I did all 3 of these by audiobook. The first book was a reread, book 2 and 3 were brand new to me, and I really liked all of them. They actually super grew on me. Flashback to 2020, maybe 2021, we read the first book as a Space Sirens book, and I thought it was okay. I didn't really gel with it. I didn't really understand what was going on, if I'm being perfectly honest. On a second read, I enjoyed it much more, and that let me enjoy book 2 and 3 kind of on a first read anyway. I really got on board with this. In this, we follow a character called Breck, who is, Breck is more than she seems and less than she was. Years ago, she was the Justice of Torren, a colossal starship and an artificial intelligence controlling thousands of soldiers in the service of the Rajd, the empire that has conquered the galaxy. So, a character who used to be kind of an enormous spaceship AI and is now one individual part of that. It's really interesting. There's some really great space culture world building going on, which I thought was very interesting, and I'm excited to keep reading the series. I'm on like the kind of additional books in the series that are slightly different perspectives and a slight tone shift. All 3 of them really enjoyed. We'll do a video probably when I've finished all of it, I think is probably the best way to go, rather than trying to do the original trilogy and then the extra books. But overall, if you're looking for a sci-fi that you can get your teeth stuck into, it might be a good option. Following on from the last time we spoke, I finished The World We Make by N.K. Jemisin. I've been saying The Worlds We Make for the longest time. World, singular. This is a fantastic sequel conclusion to a duology, the Great Cities duology. We talked about book 1, The City We Became, last week, or last time we spoke. This is a great sequel. It does exactly what I wanted to, which is to broaden things out, give more of a scope to the more global world building, quite literally, that happens. I like this a lot. I really like the character arcs. I really like kind of the ways it doubles down on book 1 and the ways it talks kind of about the things of book 1 slightly differently. It's just, it's a fantastic time. I love it so much. Yes, we will have a video very soon. I'm so sorry if you can hear the dog snoring. I don't want to wake her up because she's too precious. Another reread, I read Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. This is a story of a man called Wallace who right at the start of the book dies and goes to a tea shop that is essentially the place between worlds to go on the next part of his journey. It's sort of one of those stories about people improving themselves, very similar to House in the Cerulean Sea in that sense. I would say it is more adult than House in the Cerulean Sea is. It's dealing with some very difficult themes around death. Not that House in the Cerulean Sea isn't dealing with difficult themes, this just feels more so. This is a really beautiful book. It was less impactful than it was the first time I read it, I think. Just some of the things felt a little bit flatter on a reread. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was really good. I'm really interested to see what his next book in this kind of era is like, because I wasn't super fond of In the Lives of Puppets. So I don't know how I feel about it, but I do think this is a good book, especially if you're looking for books exploring grief and death, which I know some people are. Luna, we really don't need to snore quite so loud. We just don't. You're so close to the microphone. And lastly, also by audiobook, because what else am I using to read at the moment? I finished The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. This is our latest T. Kingfisher read-along book. I thought this was good. This is a horror. I think this is the first of her horrors that we have hit on the read-along, and I have to say, having also read some of her other horrors, this is not my favourite of those. I still think it's really good, and I still think it's worth reading. However, it just didn't quite have the same... Oh, it's now started very heavily raining, and my bathroom door's open. 1 second. If you can hear the rain, just think of this as ASMR. I can't think of anybody less likely to do ASMR than me. Anyway, yes, it's good horror. It's just very small, where other books felt much broader, but I do think it's very creepy, it's very good, and I enjoyed it. It's just not my favourite, and that's that comparison is the thief of joy thing. If this was the only horror of hers I'd read, I'd probably feel very differently about it. And I'll be interested to see how I feel when we do rereads of some of her horror that I have read. Current reads, I'm reading A Marvellous Light by Freya, because I'm rereading this series to make a overbooked video. I didn't really need to. I can definitely remember it well enough, but why not give myself the juicy excuse to do a little reread? Why not? I decided at the moment I'm feeding my brain all the things it wants. If it wants to pick up a book, I'll pick up that book right then and there. This is the story of Robin and Edwin. Robin is somebody who is taking up the role of like the magical liaison, but had no idea that the magical world existed until now. And Edwin is the grumpy academic-y person who ends up embroiled in a scheme, is basically the easiest way to describe it. These are romantasy, I suppose, in a lot of ways, but I know that I'm going to really enjoy these on a reread because I've loved them twice now, maybe 3 times. Might have to buy myself a copy of the third one because that's the one that I don't own. Perhaps. I haven't actually started it yet, but I have downloaded the audiobook, so we're counting it as starting. Provenance by Leckie. This is the next book in the Imperial Raj universe. However, I do believe it does kind of function separately. I don't know. I'll report back. Still to read this week, or kind of what's on my immediate TBR is probably the easiest way of wording it. The Dandan Dynasty. Dynasty? Not sure. Surprising no one, I didn't start these. I didn't finish them. I thought I would be done 1 a week. That's absolute nonsense. No. I've decided that I'm going to do this via audio, which means I have to push them until after I finished Imperial Raj, which might just mean shifting my video schedule around a teeny weeny bit, but I do want to finish these. I do really want to read them, but I know that for them to have their best shot, I need to do it by audiobook. So that's the plan. I'm also planning on reading The Best of All Possible Worlds. This is another reread for Overbooked. I liked this the first time. I want to give it a second chance just to really solidify it with me. I don't know where my copy has gone. I assume it is downstairs. Let's hope. Our next T. Kingfisher read starts this week. We are reading The Raven and the Reindeer. This is, I believe, fairy tale retelling. It would make sense. And I know that I love Brownie and Roses with all of my heart, so I think it's probably a good bet that I will like this as well. We are being pelted with rain. We're just gonna get to the end of the video. And if you were seeing this, I did not get drowned out by rain that came through the windows. It's fine. And lastly, on my immediate TBR, I have The Daughters of Izdihar, which is in preparation. Ooh. To read The Weavers of Alamaxa. This I'm really excited about. I talk about it every week. I just haven't got around to it yet. So yeah, I'm doing a reread of Daughters of Izdihar because I really want to. I liked it the first time I read it. I want to give the second book its best chance. I got approved for 3 NetGalley books since the last time we spoke. I am not requesting anything at the moment unless it is an absolute, I know 100% that I must read it book. I'm not requesting anything because, as you can tell, I'm falling slightly behind and I don't think that's fair to authors and review copies and all that stuff. Previously, I hadn't had that policy. I got approved for Translation State by Leckie, which is fortuitous because I was planning on reading it anyway as part of my read for the video, so that will work out nicely. I got approved for The Sword Unbound by Gareth Hanrahan. This is the sequel to The Sword Defiant, which if you've watched my videos recently, you will know I absolutely loved, both the first time I read it and on a reread. I have an overbooked video up for that, so I'm excited to read the next book in that series and see how it goes. And I also got approved for Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, and I think probably 12 months ago I wouldn't have requested this. I wouldn't have bothered because I didn't love Ava Reid's other stuff. However, I loved A Study in Drowning so much that I feel like I should read Lady Macbeth. Am I always here for a Shakespeare retelling? No, but I think this could be a good one. I have one new release I want to talk about. It's a bit confusing as to when this actually comes out. Book Hype has it coming out this week. Waterstones has it coming out on the 25th, but also it's in stock. A Letter to the Luminous Deep. This is the Sylvie Cattrall book that I read right at the start of this year. It's an epistolary novel between 2 people who are kind of falling in love and slightly neurodivergent, and it's a lovely time. I really liked it. I know I have had some friends bounce off it who didn't enjoy it, but for me personally, I got really hooked into it. I thought it was a great time. If you're looking for a kind of slightly quirky, but not in a ha-ha funny way, quirky in a this just is a bit different way, romantasy novel, perhaps might be for you. Well, the wind continues to hammer at the walls, so I shall probably sign off and go and do work and hope that the house doesn't blow over. I've got loads of catching up to do. I'm really excited to read all of these things. Fingers crossed next time I speak to you, it is a story of success. Let me know what you've been reading, what you've been up to down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams and more. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. First up, I finished. It's very early in the morning is my only excuse for this level of clumsiness. Why am I like this? Why do I leave things over here? We talked about book 1, The Cities We Became. Again, pluralizing.